Three U.S. Navy destroyers carrying 4,000 Marines are now heading toward Venezuela's coast. This comes as President Trump labels the Maduro government a cartel threatening American lives with deadly drugs. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt declared yesterday,
Welcome. Emily.
Thanks, Caroline. I wanted to ask about the 3DS warships that are being sent to Venezuela, and there's 4,000 Marines on board. Are you looking at possibly boots on the ground there?
What I will say with respect to Venezuela, President Trump has been very clear and consistent. He's prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. The Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel. In Maduro, it is the view of this administration, is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this cartel who has been indicted in the United States for trafficking drugs into the country.
The USS Gravely, USS Jason Dunham, and USS Sampson are operating in international waters for what Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth calls counter-narcotics operations. These warships bring surveillance capabilities that can track drug shipments leaving Venezuelan ports bound for American streets. But Venezuela's response shows they're taking this deployment as a direct threat to their regime. President Maduro mobilized 4.5 million militia members across Venezuela within hours of the deployment news breaking. He banned all drone flights for 30 days and accused Washington of launching bizarre threats against Venezuelan sovereignty. The empire has gone mad, Maduro told supporters at a Caracas rally yesterday. This naval show of force follows Trump's decision to double the bounty on Maduro's head to $50 million last week. Attorney General Pam Bondi also announced the seizure of $700 million in Venezuelan government assets tied to drug trafficking. The timing matters here. Fentanyl deaths killed over 70,000 Americans in 2023, with much of it flowing through Venezuelan trafficking routes. Pentagon sources confirm these ships will remain in international waters for several months, conducting intelligence operations. No ground troops will enter Venezuelan territory at this stage. Venezuelan Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello warned, "We are deployed throughout the Caribbean in our sea, our property, Venezuelan territory." The last time America positioned this many Marines near Venezuela was during the 2019 crisis, when Trump first refused to recognize Maduro's presidency. Secretary of State Marco Rubio emphasized yesterday, "The Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel."
Shalom, all praise, hallelujah, glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Raha, Kwadash, and the Bahana Zelda, and the apostles of Mason who know well. A peace, blessing, and salutation to you, Akiamua, pushing this truth to the four winds of the heaven, being at the forefront of this spiritual war, and to make sure Jerusalem is established as a praise here on Asia again, as in the days of old. So welcome back to this lesson coming to you through the spirit and the power of Yahweh Hashem Yahshua. And today we are going to see about Russia, Venezuela, and America, and the Monroe Doctrine, something known as the Monroe Doctrine, and why now? Why is US sending free warship and 4,000 Marine to Venezuela coast? Why now? You see, there has always been drug trafficking on the southern border of America, and before they did this, they looked for a justification. As always, they have labeled Nicolas Maduro as a terrorist. The guy at the top when it comes to this fentanyl network. Actually, so we're gonna see. I type in ChatGPT, Russia to deploy hypersonic missile to Venezuela. This is not an official. It's not an official a statement from Russia government, but certainly a lawmaker in the Russian government were suggesting that the orange hypersonic missile be deployed to Venezuela. You see, It say no official announcement or government level confirmation exists regarding deployment of hypersonic missile to Venezuela. That said, a speculative report. I see. It say in August 3, 2025, suggests that Russia may be exploring a potential to deploy unleashed missile to Venezuela. The report notes strategic move, especially as a way to extend Russia's deterrence reach into the Western Hemisphere. And so there is a rumor of Russia deploying the Orishnik hypersonic missile, and you saw how the Orishnik hypersonic missile can do. You see, it is close when the Orishnik hypersonic missile is short. It's like a nuclear bomb. It's like a tactical nuke. You see, and I don't remember, like, I think like a couple of Orishnik missile are capable of destroying America, and there is nothing America can do. You see, there is no any existing missile defense system in the world which can counter the Orishnik missile. It has been deployed to Belarus, I see, waiting to be launched to annihilate the European continent, man. You see? So there is something known as the Monroe Doctrine. So Russia wanted to deploy hypersonic missile to the Western Hemisphere. That goes against the Monroe Doctrine. And the Monroe Doctrine, we're going to read about it. The Monroe Doctrine is a key US foreign policy principle first declared by President James Monroe on December 2, 1823. It shaped relationship between the United States, Europe, and Latin America for centuries. The core principle of Monroe Doctrine, non-colonization. The Western Hemisphere, the American, was no longer open to European colonization, non-intervention. Any attempt by European power to control, interfere in the affairs of the nation in the America would be viewed as a hostile act against the US. US neutrality in Europe. In exchange, the US pledged to stay out of Europe wars and affairs. It hasn't done that. In the early 19th century, many Latin American countries had just won independence from Spain and Portugal. The US and Britain, which also wanted to prevent rival European empire from returning, had an insight in keeping Europe out. Monroe Doctrine was mostly a political statement since the US lacked the military power at the time to enforce it. Britain's naval power was actually what kept Europeans away. I see. Coming to 1904, President Theodore Roosevelt expanded it, declaring, so the Monroe Doctrine was later only extended in 1904. It said, declaring that the US has the right to intervene in Latin American nations to maintain stability and prevent European involvement. Called Uela, the US cited the doctrine to oppose it. So from 1904 to 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, it says the US cited a doctrine to oppose the Soviet influence in the Cuban Missile Crisis, and elsewhere in Latin America. So during the Cold War, Russia deployed the missile in Cuba. So the Monroe Doctrine not only was confined to the European nation returning to Latin America, but also it extended to Russia. And now it have extended to China and other countries to prevent their military presence in Latin America, not just America, the whole Latin America. Right now, Venezuela is into BRICS, I see, not an official member, but an associate of BRICS, looking for a way to join the BRICS. And Venezuela was the richest country when it comes to oil, man. Before America put sanctions on Venezuela, Venezuela was a rich country, man. You see, like Libya. You see, so this is an effort to undermine Venezuela, man. And Venezuela, you had the Venezuela, Russia, and China doing military exercise, man. So, and then you have the Monroe Doctrine. So what it means is the US empire, if you link all of this, the US empire is coming to an end. Is this adversary country like Russia and China, they are sending military asset on the backyard of America. The Latin America is in the geopolitics is referred to the backyard of America. So going to the book of 2 Ezra 15, She Aristotle verse 33 saying, from the land of the Assyrian shall the enemy besiege them and consume some of them, and in their hosts shall be fear and dread and strife among their king. Behold, the crowd from the east. See, it was talking about a nuclear missile will come from the east, from the north, that goes into the Arctic cycle, man. See, because Russia is there in the Arctic cycle, and they have presence, a huge military force over there in the Arctic. They are deploying military weapon over there. So some missile will come from the east, some missile will come from the north, and onto the south, from Latin America. You see, as days go, Russia will deploy missile. China, Russia, American adversary will deploy missile on Latin America, and they will be short to America when the time comes. And they are very horrible to look upon, full of flash and storm. They shall smite one upon another, and they shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth, even their own star. And the blood shall be from the sword unto the belly, and the dung of men unto the camel. And there shall be great fearfulness and trembling upon the earth, and they shall see the wrath shall be afraid, and trembling shall come upon them. And then shall there come great storm from the south, you see, and from the north, and another part from the west. So the prophet was seeing this nuclear missile get launched from the east, coming from the east, coming from the north, coming from the south. You see? And a strong wind shall arise from the east, and they shall open it, and the cloud which he raised up in Russia in the east. When you are in America, if you want to go to Russia, you go east. You go west and you pop up east. So Russia is east. And the stars started to cause fear towards the east, and the west wind shall be destroyed. The great and the mighty cloud shall be puffed up full of lust, going to the nuclear missile. And the star symbolizes the nuclear missile, that they may make all the earth afraid. Them that dwell therein, they shall pour out over every high and imminent place and a horrible star, fire and hail and a flying sword. See, that's proof it was talking about the missile. And the many waters shall all filled may be full. That was going to the lake of fire. And the all rivers will see an abundance of great water. And they shall break down the cities and wall in the mountain. You see, this water will break down his wall. And what water was he talking about? Because in the scripture, the Moshe made a covenant with Noah that he won't flood against the earth. This water here was going to fire, you see, because the water and fire are synonymous. Tree of wood and grass of meadow is their called. And they shall go steadfast into Babylon and make her afraid. Oh, praise and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rahah Kodash. Going to Matthew 24, you see, Matthew 24, you see, and 29, immediately after the tribulation of those days, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the power of heaven shall be shaken. You see, the star shall fall from heaven. That was going to the nuclear missile, going to Isaiah 47. You see, it say, 47:7, and those says I shall be a lady forever. That goes into the Monroe Doctrine. See, because the Monroe Doctrine is like that was the way of America projecting its power in the Latin America. See, and all over the world. I see, staying a lady forever, that it will be at the helm of power. So those that did not lay these things to thy heart, neither did remember the latter end, and we are living at the latter end. In the latter end, Russia is deploying a hypersonic missile in the backyard of America. That's very profound, man. Going back 70 years ago, this feels like a dream. Therefore, here now, this is all given to pressure, and dwell careless is that saying thy heart, I am, none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of the children. No war have ever been fought on the soil of America. No nuclear missile, no missile, not a nuclear missile, no missile, hypersonic like it is being shot over there in Eastern Europe have been shot on the soil of America. See? No major war have ever happened in the soil of America, man. But that coming to an end, the Monroe Doctrine is coming to an end. You see? But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children widowhood, they shall come upon thee in thy perfection, for the multitude of thy sorcery, and for the great abundance of thy enchantment. So America will be broken down. The Monroe Doctrine will be broken down. Russia will deploy hypersonic missile in Latin America through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Rashai. So this is Isaiah Shalom. I hope you are edified on the next.